You know what the best productivity hack actually is? It's not time management system. It's knowing who's on first. Clarity on who owns what inside your home, on your team, and in your life will do more to free your mental load than any app or schedule ever could. High achievers are really good at one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, putting pressure on ourselves that nobody else ever asked for. So if that hits home, stay with me because this conversation is going to shake something loose for you. We get into why imposter syndrome actually shrinks when you stop trying to know everything. What who's on first really means as a life system, and the honest truth about life outside of corporate that most people are too embarrassed to say out loud. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. This is always one of my favorite ways to do this podcast. It is a recording of me being recorded on somebody else's podcast. One, that helps the other person out. Two, it helps me out. Like it's a perfect work smarter, not harder. I feel like me being interviewed, you get to know the authentic me in a completely different way that you just can't get to know when I'm being more transactional and I'm more in like teacher mode, which I am often like operating under that in my solo episodes. Or when I'm interviewing somebody else, naturally, like they're more of the focus. But it's kind of fun being on the receiving end of that and getting to share a little bit about like how I really operate and the way that my brain really works when I'm being interviewed. So this interview in particular is with my dear friend Sarah Centrella, and she'll share a little bit more about how we met. I think it's God wink. That's the best I can say. She has become one of my closest colleagues and a very dear friend in the short, like year and a half we've known each other. But inside it, we talk about imposter syndrome. I talk about my origin story, and I think you're really going to resonate with the energy that we bring. So excited you are honoring us with your time to tune in. And I am always anxious to hear what your takeaways are and what most resonated or what you want more of, because that's how I know and am inspired to create something new that will deliver for you. So, without ado, I will let you tune in to Sarah and me and this recording of our time together. Enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. I have been looking forward to this specific show because today I have one of my girlfriends on the show who honestly I love and adore, and genuinely, for me, having people in your circle who are genuine friends but also inspire you, also are in a similar vein as far as like pursuing their passions on an entrepreneur journey is everything. It's a rare thing, I think. And so when you do find someone that you make that connection with, you cherish it. And I cannot wait for all of you to meet my good girlfriend, Courtney Cecil. Welcome to the show, Courtney. And really quick, before we get you started, you have such a stellar background, resume, the whole nine. I mean, you are a children's book author, just one of the things that you do. You're a host of a very successful podcast. You're a coach for corporate moms. You specialize in helping working, high achieving corporate moms have it all, for lack of better terminology, like really be able to manage both worlds. You do all the things. You have an insane corporate background, first of all. So we're going to get into all of that today, but welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Dude, welcome to be here. And I just like, this is one of those things where I'm not sure if I want to high five you, Sarah, or just like give you the biggest bear hug.
Hug.
But either way, like, yeah, no, just to be able to share space with you in a real meaningful way for a little bit with your listeners, it just means a lot. So thanks for extending the invitation.
Oh my God, of course. And I have to kind of tell everyone how we met or how we interacted, because here's the thing, you just never know, right? You never know how you're going to meet someone who is going to make a meaningful impact in your life. For for us, we're both speakers, right? So we both met on a speaker call that turned out to be like this total bogus woman, like trying to peddle her shit, quite honestly. I think both of us were like, oh my God, this is an hour of my life I can never get back. But then we just in like the 2 seconds that each of us did our intro, we both went and like requested each other on LinkedIn because we're like, well, that was a cool person. I don't know about everybody else on this call. Definitely don't know about the leader, but um, that person was really cool. And I just have to give you so much credit for just making sure, like, for doing the work on both sides of a friendship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's pretty rare these days where you meet someone, you're like, hey, that's a cool person. But then when both of you actually put in work to get to know each other, to be there for each other, to learn from each other, to be open and vulnerable, like that's so rare. And I just want to thank you for doing that because it's meant a lot to
Yeah,
me over the
well,
last
thank you
year.
for seeing me. That honestly, that is one of my most foundational values is I have two. One is growing my children to be like I want my boys to be adult friends with me. Like I care a lot about that.
Mhm.
The other one is to really lean into the relationships that matter to
Yeah.
me. And there's a lot beneath why, there's a lot of, childhood trauma that has led to this, but because it's such a core part of who I am and how I show up and honestly what I teach too. The fact I've never heard you say that, Sarah, but it means a lot because that is something that I do very intentionally do and I
And
just
I see
appreciate that
you.
you
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, like
I
it feels
really
good to be
do.
seen.
I really
Um
do. And I just have to say, and this is for everyone listening because I cannot tell you how often I hear my clients, and it happened literally in the coaching call that I had right before you and I joined this call. So it happens every single day where I'm coaching women, especially, who will say, I want a better friend network. I want like-minded people. I need girlfriends in my life. I need that like up-leveled connection with a friend. And I always say, number one, you have to be open to it, right? And you have to be in a space to receive. But number two, you have to take action. You have to put in the work when you do meet someone who's cool. And so this is for everyone who's listening, who's like, man, I want more of that in my life. I want more just fucking badass women in my life who support me, who are my friend, and whatever the case is, amazing, but the universe is going to bring those people into your life. Like the fact that we were both on this random ass call is crazy. We live clear across the country from each other. You live East Coast, I live West Coast. We have not met in person yet. We will one day. But the fact that both of us, put in the effort to get to know each other on a personal level. And I just also want to really thank you for reaching out when my brother died. You are one of the only people in my life who reached out to me directly and genuinely was there for me during that time. And you sent me a voice note that I will never forget. It's going to be a little bit emotional, but you sent me a voice note and you were the only person to do this. Um, and you said, can you tell me about your brother? And I thought, oh my God, like the love in that, the kindness in that, and you didn't just say that to be like, oh, whatever. Like you wanted to know. You're like, what did you love so much about him? Like, tell me a funny story about him. Like, and just that was so special to me. And I want to thank you for that. That doesn't happen
Aw.
every day. And that took, thoughtfulness and care and love. And I just appreciate that. Sorry to get all emotional.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for seeing me, but also I want to plus one what you said, Sarah, about when you find your people, don't sit back and just let it happen. Step into that, lean into that. Like I grew up with the shittiest quote unquote girlfriends ever. They were not friends. They didn't know how to be friends. They cared more about tearing me down than building themselves up. And that's just not how I operate. I am a cheerleader of all people. But I also relentlessly focus on my own self-development. And I believe both of those can coexist as opposed to girls, especially tearing other girls down. It just doesn't have
Yeah.
to look like that. So I vowed when I graduated high school and could go out on my own and expand beyond the little town that I grew up in. I am going to like when I find my people, I don't
Yeah.
care where they are. I'm going to grab them and I'm not going to let them go. And I
Love that.
think that one of the ways I'm able to do that is by understanding what it is I value,
Mm,
understanding what I value in relationships and the people that I surround myself with.
yeah.
And it's because, Sarah, the energy you bring is an encouraging one. It's authentic. It is like you are also a cheerleader. You also lean in. Um, like you have very compatible energy. So when I'm able to identify that, well, guess what?
Yeah.
As long as you lean in, I'm going to keep leaning. And
I love
that's
that.
I think that that's the way you show up for people too. So as long as you're getting that energy back, then keep giving that
Yeah.
energy because that's how real sticky relationships are built.
Yep.
And that's like coming back. So I spent a couple decades in corporate. You alluded to that a little bit. And one of actually the past decade, I've spent leading culture, both
Yeah.
in bigger roles. My last role was head of culture at a Fortune 50. I'm a believer in sticky relationships, but sticky relationships don't happen and
Yep.
they're intentionally built. Like they don't just plop in your lap. So um me leaning in is only as good as you leaning in, and it takes both
Yeah.
of us. So I just plus one everything you said, but most
I love that.
especially your encouragement for others. Like when you see something, don't just wait for it to happen. Like chase
Yeah.
it. Go
And
after it.
and don't put all the work on the other person. Like you have to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. You have to do things that feel a little bit uncomfortable. You were also one of the very few people in my life who checked in on me when I was on my trip, on my solo trip. When I say like there would be like 3 or 4 days in a row where I wouldn't get a single text message. I wouldn't get a single like not one person, are you alive? Is everything okay? And so for you to like not just follow along on social, which is, what everyone else is doing, but to actually like send a voice note, be like, how are you doing? What's going on? Like those types of things. And I'm just going to encourage everybody, take the step, because it is so worth it on so many levels. And two brains are better than one as well, especially if you're on an entrepreneur journey. Like you get the opportunity to share like-mindedness. But there's so much I want to get into today. And first and foremost on this show, we love to share our kind of origin story, a little bit of our backstory. Because, like you said, you were badass. You literally led, culture and engagement at a company every single person listening to this would know. Very difficult job to probably get. Decades of working your way up the corporate ladder, doing all the things, and that doesn't just happen either, but you didn't start there. So take us back a little bit to what what kind of started this drive for you, and where's that kind of origin story started for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's so ironic you're asking this question because I also just got off a very meaty call with one of my coaching clients. So I work for both. Now I serve both organizations and individuals. So one of my individual clients, and we were talking about expectations. And Sarah, it goes all the way back to when I was in high school. So, she was talking about how I don't know. She was just carrying all this weight, and a lot of it was she was blaming boundaries on other people and all this other stuff. I'm like, let's call a timeout. And as we unpacked it, I was like, I think this actually kind of sits with you, and let's talk about the expectations that you have of yourself versus the what other people are actually asking of you. And I gave her this example. And this is where I'm taking it. It really is my origin story of my parents, and vividly remember this. I'm in my kitchen. I grew up in a very small town called Tazewell, Virginia. It's in the mountains, a town of 4,000 people. I graduated with 120. They were the same 120 people that I started in preschool with, right? It was one of those kind of circumstances. And I remember being so pissed at them because they were putting all of this pressure on me to perform. And I remember them calling a timeout and saying, well, hold up now. You are the one, my dear, putting pressure on yourself. We never said that you had to be valedictorian. We never said that you had to get straight A's. We never said you had to do any of this. Our
Mm,
expectation is that you just show up and that, you show up for yourself. But that is certainly an engine that I've learned how to dial back the volume. One of my old bosses. I was chief of staff for him. He's CEO of my organization. And he always told me, like, Courtney, you need to figure out how to dial down the volume. I've gotten a lot better at that, but I've always had a very high volume. And it started with that quest to be valedictorian. And I remember needing to be valedictorian for a couple different reasons. But the biggest being, I always work right to left, is what I call it. Like, think with the end in mind and move
Yeah.
backwards, as in the language of Stephen Covey. So, thinking with the end in mind, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. It was so fundamental to my core existence and purpose in life. But I knew in order to be a mom and give my future kids the life I wanted to give them, I needed to be able to afford to do that. And I mean that both from a flexibility and a financial perspective, which I know as a single mom you can absolutely appreciate.
Yeah.
And then in order to get the job that would pay that and have the flexibility, then I needed to get into the school I wanted. So I went to Virginia Tech. I studied industrial and systems engineering. So essentially, how do you make things more efficient or effective? We are top 10 program in the nation. Great school for, especially for what I studied. But I knew that in order to get into the school I wanted, to do the job that I wanted, that would pay the things that I wanted, that would give me that flexibility and freedom for my boys, I had to have really good grades. Like, I couldn't just skirt into a top 10 engineering program. I had to like really show up to get on. And it all started with the choice to chase valedictorian.
Mhm.
And albeit small school, right? Like, my odds were a lot higher than they would have been if I was in a bigger program, but I was far from the smartest person. I just knew how to hustle like hell.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did a
Same.
lot of hustling. Did a lot. Yeah, that's part of, like, you and I both are very gritty. And I think
Mhm.
that that's part of, our combined energy, and but it's also our individual superpowers too.
Yeah.
So I started out as really gritty. I hustled like hell to make sure that I made valedictorian. It's still to this day one of the proudest things I've ever done.
I love that.
Yeah. So fast forward, went to the school I wanted, then landed in a consulting career. And so I started out in government consulting and then relocated from DC to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I live now. And I worked for four different CEO administrations. And I just think that that unlocked a part of my world that I never anticipated. But Sarah, you talk a lot about
Yeah.
manifesting something. I think that the way that I process it is not different, but it's kind of a different take, in that I'm a believer that luck is where hard work meets opportunity.
Absolutely. 100%. Yep.
So I had busted my ass when I was in government consulting and built a very strong brand for myself, where the leadership team that was at that practice just would do anything to support me because I did anything
Yeah.
to support them,
Right.
right? It goes both ways. As we've talked about, like, when you lean in, other people lean in,
Yeah.
and it just keeps on giving. So the managing partner of the practice that I was coming from was like, I hear that you're not coming back I relocated to Chapel Hill for my husband's business school. And he's like, I get that you're not coming back to DC. We're happy to have you continue coming back to do this work, and just commute or whatever. But let me introduce you to my good friend. He's going places.
Mhm.
And if he can create a role for you, Courtney, I'm telling you, you have to ride that coattail, and like, you have to show up for him. And I'll be darned if that gentleman didn't end up hiring me and then later becoming CEO. So
Wow.
it
Yeah.
was one of those circumstances where, again, hard work, like luck is where
Yep.
hard work meets opportunity. And that opened my first door. And then it started expanding from there. But that gentleman, and he wanted his legacy I come from a public accounting firm. It was at the time the number five public accounting
Yeah.
firm right behind the big four. He wanted his legacy to be the culture of our organization.
Wow.
And I was his project manager. I had all kinds of different projects that I ran for him and represented him on and then reported back to him on. But the culture one was so sticky. And
Yeah.
I eventually was like, Mike, I want to go do this full time. Like, I want my job to be leading the culture transformation for you, because if it's your legacy and you care
Yeah.
that much about it, then you need somebody who's dedicated to this full
Full
time and
time. Yep.
thinking about it. So I went and did it. That was back in 2013. So, 13
Wow.
years ago is a while ago. But I was just in the right place at the right time and had proven myself so much that he would just like even getting introduced to him was a big lucky door that was opened. Being able to step into this work that just felt so emotionally tied to the epicenter of how I show up for people
Right.
was the biggest door. And it is what's unlocked the past 13 years, apparently.
I love that so much. And I mean, there's a couple pieces in there, right? Like 1,000% opportunity, hard work is what opens that door for quote unquote luck, right? You have opportunity, you have ideas, and you're able to take the opportunity, not just see it, but actually take it and step in and own it. And I want to talk about that real quick for just a little bit because there's a lot of talk about kind of imposter syndrome and what you do in those transition stages where you're going from, let's say, one role into the other one and into something that's maybe more visible or taking a promotion or especially that, going from this being just a project that you're working for the CEO to literally like representing his legacy for the company. Very high visibility, probably more pressure, all these different things, right? So, did you experience any of those self-doubt feelings in kind of transitioning into that new role? And if you did, how did you work through it, or how did you like manage that for yourself to
Oh
be
my
able to
gosh,
fully
absolutely.
embody the new role?
Yeah, so I think it's ironic that we're talking about this because I just on my own podcast was interviewing another person who is essentially a working mom brand expert, and that was the whole point of the topic. It was like intentionally curating your brand,
Mm,
especially in a very where we a time of our life where there's a very large digital footprint, and you kind of have to get ahead of that. And I think part of being able to curate your brand is knowing where your strengths and liabilities are. And when you're really clear on that, it helps you know what to lean into and who to surround yourself with in order to help you be at your best. So you're absolutely right that, let's take this last role. So I was head of culture at a major global bank. I knew that I knew culture inside and out. I felt really good about my ability to manage and lead through that topic. I knew nothing about financial services. I started in manufacturing. I spent 16 years in professional services, but I had never spent a day in financial services.
yeah,
So by knowing what it was I contributed and knowing where my gaps were, I knew what I needed to surround myself with. So I needed
right. I love
to
that.
find those people that would help essentially help me see my blind spots
Yeah,
and just own that. Like I can't possibly pretend to know this other than the fact that my husband has spent the past 15 years in financial services himself. Like other than that tangent relationship, I couldn't pretend and make up the fact that I all of a sudden knew all this stuff that I didn't know.
right.
But being authentic and humble enough to admit where you should be leveraged and where you need to surround yourself. I think that's just a leadership skill and it's one
Ooh.
that really matters. So, and
Preach,
part of
girl,
that too is like,
preach. Like it's
yeah,
that is such an important point.
yeah.
Yeah,
But also like knowing what your highest and best use is part of that. So I know like that's a very technical example, which makes it easier sometimes to separate. But even if you think about your soft skills, like I know that my highest and best use is dot connecting. I can hear something all the way over here and all the way over there and be like, wow, look how
yeah,
interrelated these are. And most people are
right,
not able to do that. Like they're more black and white thinkers or they're missing the connection points to get from
right.
point A to point B. I know that's my strength, but guess what is my liability? It's it's that I don't define and protect scope very easily
Right.
because I'm constantly dot connecting. I'm constantly seeing opportunity, and
Right.
because
So
I'm
vision,
constantly
the
seeing opportunity.
vision.
Yeah, exactly. Like a vision, it's just like
Yeah.
I can't unsee it, and I get so excited about
Yeah.
it. Like I'm a very high I in the desk profile. So I know then that I need to surround myself with people who are more confined in their
Yes.
thinking
Yeah.
to help me stay grounded so I don't have scope creep, because that scope creep doesn't only impact me, it impacts my family, it impacts my direct reports, it
Yep.
impacts the organization and the investments that we're making. So I think like the clearer you can be on what you bring and what you need to surround yourself with, the more that imposter syndrome doesn't become a thing because you know you're not
Well,
going to be able to do it alone.
okay. I love everything
So,
you just said. That was the best answer I think I've ever heard about it, because I get on this soapbox, my listeners already know, about imposter syndrome. And to me, it's just a story you tell yourself that if you're not careful, can totally self-fulfill and just be a complete shit show. It can lock you up, it can stop opportunities from all the stuff, right? So definitely from the mindset piece of it, I teach like what to do in that space. But I love what you said, because that truly is the tangible piece to it. Yes, I need to check my mindset so I'm not spinning out on this stuff. I need to tangibly go like, okay, cool. I don't know everything that I don't know, and that's perfectly fucking fine. I don't have to know everything under the sun. I'm super strong in these core areas. That, by the way, listeners, is point one. You have to know what your superpowers are. You have to know what your strengths are. Like that is, if you don't know, pause everything, get a freaking pen and paper, and start listing that out. Ask all the people closest to you, what do you see my strengths at? Like those, you have to know that inside and out, because from there you can build around, right? When you know that. And it is much easier for you to spot and recognize the areas where you might have a weakness. And I think there's so many leaders out there who put this pressure on themselves. You talked about pressure earlier, self-created kind of pressure, but they put this pressure on themselves to know everything. Let's say I'm running a team, and a team of maybe 10 people, and we have all these different projects and whatever. In theory, all those 10 people should be really good at their individual things. They should be the expert at their individual things, right? And me as a leader should have probably some soft skills that are my superpower, but I should also pick people on the team who are, their superpower is what mine is not, so that I am able to not try and learn every single thing, but rely on the people I'm surrounding myself with, my team members, etc., to be able to fill those gaps. And I can trust their area of expertise. And obviously, we learn and grow along that process. And so my knowledge will grow in all those other areas and stuff. But I just think like that's so key. And there's so many people who are afraid to do that. They would, and I think the imposter syndrome idea compounds when we're not doing that, when we are putting all this pressure on ourselves to know everything, because then we're masking and we're going in pretending to know everything. And then, of course, like going, oh my God, is everyone going to know I'm pretending? Yes, they are. And so, like, the whole thing about, so like, take all that off the table and be strategic about it. I love that. And that helps you grow. It helps them grow. It creates truly a culture around yourself, an orbit around yourself that people want to be in. And as we've talked about, you've created that. You've created that both for me, but you've also created it in all your other environments too. And so that's huge. That's everything. That is an energy that,
that's a pressure valve. Like that's
yeah,
when you get to turn off that pressure valve that you're putting on yourself. Because oftentimes, just like my client that I was talking about this morning, it's not expectations of others that they have of you. It's expectations that you put on your, like you're superimposing those expectations. Just like I did with my parents when I blew up with them in like my childhood kitchen, where I'm
yeah,
like, why do you keep, why do you expect so much of me? And I was carrying all this stuff. No, that was me.
yeah,
So the more that we can own our space and what it is we can best contribute to the world, the more we just release that pressure valve to be able to allow us to just be human, because that, after all, is what we are.
yeah. No, I love that. And that leads right into kind of what I wanted to talk about next, which is your area of total expertise, which is helping working moms, which I am a working mom. I was gonna say I was entrepreneur is still a working mom. I have to remind myself of that.
Oh
But
yeah, girl. I mean, that's
probably
I
even more
always say
so.
now, and yeah, Alex Hermosi. So, assuming that most of your listeners are more corporate side than entrepreneur side, Alex Hermosi is just a massive success story in the entrepreneur world. And he always said, like, I left my 40-hour week to work 100,
Oh yeah.
120% that.
Exactly.
Like, that's it. Like, yes, I miss, actually, even yesterday, one of my girlfriends sent me something because she's also gone out on her own. She's a interior designer now.
Yeah.
And she's like, the amount of essentially the amount of days that I dream about going back to corporate to get that
Right.
stable paycheck and
Have
to
the
have to like,
401k and yeah.
yeah, yes, exactly.
Have the
Like,
paid vacation. Have yeah.
uh-huh.
There,
Yeah, every time a holiday comes around, I'm like,
yeah.
man, that's
So
like,
let's talk about that. Your exit from corporate um was I mean you were working towards it, right? I was doing the same thing. I was doing a double hustle. I was building my brand. I was coaching on the side. I was writing books. I was doing all the things while I still had a corporate job. And at a certain point I realized like you can't ride two horses at once. There's going to be a moment where I'm going to have to make the change. And you are a full-time entrepreneur now. So can you talk to us a little bit about what the whew, switch was from those two worlds and how you've been managing it?
gosh, it's ironic because sometimes I have to remind myself that I can't be the cobbler whose kids are not wearing shoes. I
Yeah.
have to be able to really drink my own juice. So as you've acknowledged, Sarah, I mean, I coach working moms in my consumer practice, but then inside corporate, I help organizations develop and incubate programs that will help make work and life sustainable because so
Mm,
often, and I swear this is going somewhere, so
yeah.
often organizations focus on the top half of Maslow's hierarchy. It's, how do I make you a better practitioner? How do I make sure that you're sharpening your saw so you have all the technical training you need to do your job? But what they're doing is they're essentially ignoring the bottom half of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is saying like you have to care for your safety and security and your well-being before you are capable of showing up fully for others. So that's my focus is like
Yeah.
how do I help people, most particularly again moms in my consumer practice, build sustainable lives, like in my language, a life management system that will support them. So the hardest part of transitioning from corporate to being an entrepreneur is just that.
Yeah.
Because being an entrepreneur, it's always on all the time. If especially where I am at the early stages in business incubation, if I'm not actively sitting at my computer, I am not making money.
Right. Yeah.
And so it just makes it really hard to ever turn it off and protect boundaries that I know I need to be able to be a present parent and to protect my marriage and to really protect what it is that I value. And similar to you,
Yeah.
Sarah, I love to travel. I'm very relationship driven. I'm very health conscious and driven. I can't like if I let myself, it would be very easy for all of that stuff to be completely sucked into the vortex
Right.
of my business, as opposed to putting first things first, prioritizing that stuff and figuring out how I can make the business fit around it. So
Yeah.
I think that I feel very grounded in the purpose behind the work that I'm doing. And I think that that's what continues to fuel fuel the business because it's fueling my heart,
Yeah.
but it also is like draining the gas tank
Hmm.
in a balance perspective. So continuing to put first things first and make sure I'm protecting my energy is really important because I do believe that a lot of people mistake time management as energy management. And they think, oh, if I just had more productivity hacks, if I could better manage my time, like all of this would go away. Or if my to-do list would be, if I could get more done, then all of a sudden I'd feel
Yeah.
lighter. But that's just fundamentally crap.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You will always have a to-do list. Um, the best time management hacks and productivity hacks are not going to help you get there.
Yeah.
What's going to help you get there is protecting your energy and knowing how to how to fabricate it because you can't make more time, yeah, but you can build more energy. Like you can fabricate energy. You can create more energy based on
Yeah.
how you care for yourself. So I am putting a lot of discipline into really drinking my own Kool-Aid and knowing
Yep.
that that really is what's best for me and what's going to lead to like a prosperous business and therefore my ability to make a difference in more people's lives.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I definitely think it has having boundaries is super critical. I've now been doing this full time for 10 years, which is crazy to say. And I think I'm constantly learning, adjusting, and whatever. It is interesting though. I would say the first 3 to 5 years, I went through like kind of an identity crisis, to be quite honest, because I had worked my way up to the C-suite in corporate sales and corporate high tech sales. And then going from that to being a solo entrepreneur um, was just this crazy, like whiplash feeling. And it took me quite a while to know how to embrace that identity, I guess. There's, as you well know, power that comes with title in corporate. There's authority that comes with that. There's just all of this stuff that the second you say your title, it opens doors, it shifts how people look at you, talk to you, interact with you in a room, et cetera, et cetera. Um, it's not always that way in my experience in the starting phase of entrepreneurship. And for me, that was something that no one was talking about back then, that I had no idea to expect or to prepare for, or kind of how to manage that and how to really own my business and what I was doing, because it was so different, obviously. Like I went, I was starting a life coaching company from being a corporate executive in sales. Is there anything in there that you can help women? Because I know from coaching women who are in corporate right now, the dream is always to quit. Let's be honest. The dream is always to like, oh, someday I will just be able to work for myself. I'll be able to do my own thing. I can work from anywhere. Can you talk to what some of the realities of that growth transition has been like for you?
Yeah, hard as hell. That's
Right?
the bottom line. Like, and
It is not as easy as everyone makes it out to be on
no, it's
Instagram.
not. It's so humbling, Sarah. And I mean, as you walk every day, and I know just hopefully you don't mind me speaking a little bit on your behalf,
Yeah.
even knowing that you're so far into it, it's not like it's really gotten easier. Like,
No,
yes, you have more collateral with your books to pull from that gives you some credentialization, but
it's still a hustle. It is a constant
yeah,
hustle.
it's the
Constant
hustle
hustle.
never ends. And you know,
Nope.
the irony is that my dad was a small business owner. He owned a civil engineering firm, and I watched him work consistent 80-hour weeks growing up. I was like, that looks like it sucks. I don't want to do
Mhm.
that.
Right?
And I'll be darned if I didn't find my way right back into it. And
Yeah.
I think so. I lost my job. I was at a company for 16
Yeah.
years that I loved. Like it was the love of my life. I also call it the breakup of my life. Like
Yeah.
it just broke my soul to leave that company. And the irony is I had already outgrown the company. I'd been looking for the right role for a year because as you just acknowledged, title does,
Yeah.
carry
It
some weight.
does.
And I really wanted the title that would give me some credentialization.
Yeah.
And I got that. But what I learned is even at that last organization, just because I had the title doesn't mean I have the heart and soul.
Mhm.
But when I was at that firm that I was at for 16 years, it was a multiple billion dollar, like 10,000 plus person company. Uh, I had already started looking for something else. But
Yeah.
so even though I had one foot out the door because I know that I'd kind of peaked there and I couldn't get much else out of the experience, I knew I needed to keep opening doors for myself. So I was looking. So even though, despite, I should say, already being on the job hunt, I was heartbroken when they were just like, you know what, we're gonna
Yeah.
eliminate your function and you're going with it. Because in my mind, I was like, I have busted my ass for you for
Right.
16 years. And then I'm not even like, you're not going to give me a place. Like, I know where all the bodies are buried. I think about, worked for 4 CEO administrations.
Yeah.
Like, I know how to get shit done in this organization. I was really butthurt. And that's what made like shifted the way that I showed up in corporate to where I protected myself a little bit more, protected what it was I valued. But it wasn't until going to this other Fortune 50 where I realized how important it was for me to actually care about the work that I was doing. Like
Yeah.
I thought that I didn't need to. I thought that having more balance and having a bigger paycheck would be enough. And it just wasn't enough. I
Yeah.
needed to feel like what I was doing each day mattered. So, what I will say for being an entrepreneur is yes, you are in more control. And part of being in control is being able to do the work that really hits whatever makes you happy,
Yeah.
whether that's contribution, whether that is making money, whether that is like impact, it doesn't really matter. You get to choose because you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Now that's the good part of it. Then there's all of the other stuff. And
75% of the rest of it,
that's
where you're
exactly
doing
it.
things you never thought you would do, things you know
Yes.
nothing about, don't give two shits
Yes.
about, but you still have to do.
Yes. Like that, like I think that's right. Like it really probably is a 75-25 balance. So the
Yeah.
75% is like spending my days figuring out how to hook up all my financial systems behind the
Right.
scenes. Spending my days trying to
Like
fix
all
this
this
one thing.
operational BS stuff.
Yes. Like IT, I have never missed my IT team as much as I
Right?
did. It's also like knowing that you need leverage in order to grow but balancing the risk tolerance to be able to do that. It is, as we've already talked about, not ever getting paid on holidays. It is
Exactly.
how much longer, like if somebody is selling something to you, if they're saying like, look, buy my program, it'll teach you how to
Yeah,
do X by X days. Don't listen to them. They are lying. I have
exactly.
done all of them. I have paid for all of them.
Yep.
And I follow to textbook. Like I started this, ask about my origin story. I
Yeah.
started being like, I can hustle. Like I got
Yep.
grit. And it all started with valedictorian. Well, I'll tell you, that does like grit and hustle does not fix how hard this is.
So
Um,
true.
it's
God.
so hard and it
It
will
is.
wear you the heck out.
Yeah. And I'm so thank you for saying that, first of all, because most entrepreneurs will lie about that, will hide it and try and sell a false fucking narrative that if you're really in this, is not accurate. But what that does is it just clouds it for everybody, and makes the whole fucking waters muddy. And I think if I had known what all this would be, quite honestly, I would not have done it. There's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way. I mean, my kids were in elementary school and middle school when I started doing this, and I was the sole provider for a family of four. It was fucking suicide financially, to
Yeah.
be quite honest. I went from making multiple six figures to my first year in business, I made $17,000 the first year. So suicide,
Yep.
financial suicide.
Yep.
So that's the real truth. But I will say, you as well as we are so passionate about the thing that we do, right? We we have a message to share with the world that does help people. And so whatever you listener, whatever it is that you're passionate about, if you love it enough that you would do it for $17,000 a year, then you're in. If you would love it enough for there to be 6 months with one client coming in or whatever, like that's the fucking reality of year one, year two, starting a business. You are starting from scratch, you are building something. But the wins, when they come, are the best feeling in the entire fucking world. That, being able to do something that you love and be a mom and work and be a mom, I think is incredible. And I know, real quick, one of the things I wanted to ask you is the question you probably get asked a lot. Do you feel like, knowing what you know, coaching women to create systems, to have balance, to have full lives at work and at home, can women have it all?
That's a complicated answer. I think, and the reason being is I think they can, but it's not in the way that we think. It's, you have to define what it all is for you. You can't look to your neighbors and be like, well, they've got that going on, or you can't look outward to anybody else but yourself and figure out what you what you care about the
Yeah.
most. And until you can define that, you're going to continue feeling unfulfilled. So it doesn't mean it's hard. I do think you can have it all, but like you just can't do it all alone, and you
Hmm.
can't build someone else's all. Like you have to
Yeah.
build it for yourself. You know that I don't I don't care about material items. I care about travel.
Yeah.
So all of
Same.
my money goes there.
Yep.
Like do I feel like I don't have it all because I don't have a designer purse or wear new, I mean, I am
Yeah.
literally wearing clothes that I bought in college and I don't care,
Yeah.
like that was decades
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean,
Yeah. It
like
depends on what your all is.
yeah, like
Yeah.
do I
Yeah.
have the most banging body ever? No. I could if I put all of my eggs in that
Yeah.
basket,
Yeah.
but then I'm leaving other things behind. So I think just lowering your standards to where everything is like more B minus, even, and
Hmm.
that's hard for high achievers because high achieving women are inherently driven to looking for A plus plus standards. Well,
Yeah.
you can't have A plus plus standards
In
and
90
have it all.
categories.
Yeah, exactly. Like something has to give, but fi when you figure out what your highest priorities are, you can make those happen. You just have to
Yeah.
have the discipline to let go of the noise and lower what your standards look like. And
And
surround yourself, by the way, with people who can help you. Like that's
yeah,
the other thing. You can't do it all alone.
totally. And I think systems, I know that's your
Yeah,
area of expertise, that without systems, I don't think you can do it at all,
no.
and my thought process is, again, depending on what your all is, um, you can have a version of that if you have systems in place, systems that you trust for yourself. Like, that you can trust 100%, that you'll be off your phone. For an example, when I was back in corporate, my kids were really little. I would get home 5:36, whatever. They would be hungry. I'd pick them up from daycare. They're tired, they're hungry, they want to see me. So my system in place for that was like, this is mom time. From the moment I pick them up until they're in bed, 8 o'clock, whatever the time was, I am off my phone. I do nothing but be present. So this block of time is this role that I live in or whatever. And as long as I stuck to that, then I could manage to not have the mom guilt in the other hours that I was at work, and could be in the box of, I am at work, this is what I do, so I trust that they are safe, and da da da. So those types of systems helped me. I would not have functioned without learning how to like time block and have some tactical processes in place. And same as an entrepreneur, because when I started this, like I said, the kids were in elementary school and middle school, and I was working from home, and they were home all the time, and so like what is one of your favorite systems that you just can't live without as a working mom?
Oh, this is kind of cheat code, but it's not doing it by myself.
Mm,
It's like knowing, having clarity with my kids and my husband and the people that I surround myself with, who's on first at any point in time.
yeah,
Because I think that the more that you have clarity, the more you waste time spinning. And it's one of the most, like when you think about, so a system is nothing but processes and parts that make up a whole. Like
yeah,
that is, so I'm an industrial and systems engineer at our core. It is about how all the things inside an ecosystem work together. But a good process, I started out in manufacturing, then I moved on to process improvement work inside corporate, like that's the type of consulting I started with. um, a good process has to have delineated responsibilities.
mm,
So it's less about a hack around like, here's how I get out the door, or here's how I approach my evenings or approach my work. It's to me, it's less about that and way more foundational. It's who's on first for what. And as long as you're clear on what those roles and responsibilities are, and when you need to step up versus somebody else, it allows you to eliminate all of the noise.
ooh,
Because you get to stay in your lane and you don't have to worry about it because
yeah,
if a ball's dropped, it's not your ball. Like that's somebody
yeah,
else's to clean up. Even if it's like yesterday, my youngest, he's in club soccer and he pulled the wrong jersey. He's like, "What are we gonna do?" I was like, "We're gonna go to we're going to go to practice and you're going to wear the wrong jersey. Like
Yeah,
that's not my like that's
yep,
not my problem.
yeah,
That's your like that's
yep,
you need to have this is why his name's Wyant. This is why
yeah,
Wyant, like your responsibility is to get your soccer stuff ready before you play
yeah,
outside, before you we have dinner, before you
right,
start getting ready for bed, so that way you can be mentally present to do it right.
yep.
And that, guess what? It didn't happen.
And then you
So
have to deal with the consequences like we have to do as
exactly.
adults, like real life.
Exactly. Exactly. So having the predictability and the clarity on responsibilities and the delineation around ownership, I think most people waste a lot of time on
Love that.
figuring that out. So if you
Yeah,
can get that one thing right, you'll be surprised how just free it feels, but most especially what you get to shake a lot of load.
yeah.
Like there's a lot of
Well,
mental load we
yeah, I
carry.
was just gonna say, like, ladies, stop taking responsibility for every single thing that happens in your 24-hour freaking waking life.
Yep.
Like, think of all the things we take responsibility and ownership for that have fucking nothing to do with us, that is not
Yep.
our issue, not our problem, that
Yep.
is teaching the people in our lives to not take responsibility and to offload. Like, just think about the message that that's sending to your kids, to your husband, to freaking everyone in your life if you're the one who's always just owning all the stuff that is not yours to own in the first place. Like,
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that. Let it go. Give it to the rightful owner.
Yep.
I love this. Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing all of your wisdom. Very, very special, meaningful episode for me. I just appreciate your energy, appreciate all that you bring to the world, and thank you.
Right back at your friend. I appreciate you
Love
having
it.
me.
Yeah.
Today, I shared about my origin story, but on episode 50, I bear it all. I share why I made the career related decisions I did, what led to the big career pivots I've made, and best of all, I share what an actual life management system really is. So grab the link in the show notes and come tune in there.